Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I'm very excited to have Neil Tantingco here on the line. And I met Neil like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was giving a demonstration of what his company does. And he has connected home living. And what they do is they help older people remain safe at home. So a lot of families I know really want to, find a way that they can actually, help their older family members stay safe. And what Neil has is really interesting solution. So, Neil, thanks so much for joining me here today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, hi everyone. I'm Neil Tantico. I am the founder and CEO of Connected Home Living. And all we do here at CHL is prevent aging seniors from going in and out of the hospital by keeping them safe at home. And we do this by blending both technology, which what you saw there, Sam, and live remote care coordination. And so we blend technologies such as telehealth, fall detection systems, and behavioral monitoring. So this way, even though your aging loved ones by themselves, something in a non-intrusive way is keeping an eye on them to ensure that they're safe.
All right. So, well, before you tell me a little bit more about that, what's your background? Like, did you grow up in kindergarten thinking about this, or how did you come to be in this space?
It's a funny, fascinating. Like many of us here in Silicon Valley, I work for a Silicon Valley, well, several Silicon Valley companies. So after college, I worked for companies like Netscape, worked for Yahoo, but majority of my stint I spent with a company called VMware. But it was a great gig, but I just didn't find it fulfilling, and so I found myself volunteering in these assisted living communities. And then one day, this one owner who was getting old herself, she decided, "Hey, there's something wrong with you, Neil, because you're here almost every weekend. How would you like to take over?" And so back in 2000, I decided to buy an assisted living community. So it's a small community. It's a 50-bed community out in Visalia, which is about 3 hours from where I live here in San Jose. And that's how I immerse myself in the world of senior care. So I'm going on my 25th year as a owner operator, and it's one of the best jobs ever. And it's where you show up and you get 50 hugs and kisses. And I didn't get that one working for Yahoo or VMware, but in this line of work, that's exactly what I get on every time I show up. Yeah.
So, Neil, I'm guessing you're the only person in all of VMware who would ever go and volunteer at an assisted living community. So, like, why were you doing that? I mean, were you raised by your grandparents, or you have some kind of like, affinity for like the elder community, or like, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, it is unusual. I don't know. Ever since grade school and high school, they you're gonna find this one, but they call me the senior whisperer, and I enjoyed hanging out with my friends' parents than I did with my actual friends. I don't know what it was. Maybe I've got an old soul. Maybe that's part of it, but also it could be because it's part of our culture. I'm Filipino descent, so in our culture, we treat our seniors almost like a demigod, right? And so I'm not sure if you have any Filipino friends, but when the way we show respect for elderlies is we take their hands and we put the back of their hand onto our forehead, just like you would with a pope, right? That's how we regard our seniors so highly, and I think because of that mindset and plus also maybe my old soul combined together, I just find it more fulfilling being around seniors, and I dedicated my 25 plus years just making sure that I find the best way to care for the seniors, especially when they're by themselves.
Right. Okay. So, like, Visalia, is that where you were going to like be a volunteer at? I mean, it's a long drive to go volunteer, or how did you actually pick the place in Visalia?
Well, for some reason, my grand aunt, who never married, never had any kids, I became her kid. I became her only kid, and so for some reason, she chose Visalia to retire at this community. Probably because the cost of senior care here in the Bay Area is so astronomical. So anyway, I live. So she lived there, and every time we drive, it takes us about 3 hours to get there. And so when you show up for 3 hours, you don't want to just spend 5 minutes and head back home, right? You got to spend a couple hours. So what do you do during those 2 hours? Well, I started to get to know the residents, other residents. I got to know the staff. The next thing I knew, I started wheeling people to the dining room. Next thing I know, I started serving dinner. Next thing I knew, I started vacuuming and washing the dishes. I don't know. It was so cool. But the piece that they task me every time I show up is, hey, show anything about technology. And I thought, gosh, these old folks, they're not going to want any technology. But it was quite the opposite. They love technology. In fact, one of the favorite things that I like to show is, believe it or not, Seb, is Zillow. You ask them what they had for lunch, they're not going to remember. But boy, you ask where they lived 30, 50, 60 years ago, they'll know instantly. Oh yeah, I lived at this street, and I would just go to Zillow. I'd just pull up the address, and boom, there it is. There's their home, and they said, "My gosh, that's that shrub that I planted." But look at it now; it's a big old tree, right? Or I don't like that window that they set up, because when I set it up, 50, 60 years ago, I personally put up this window, right? It's really cool drawing from Zillow, because again, they remember so well about what happened 50, 60 years ago, but not what happened recently. But the funny part here, Seb, is that every time I pull up Zillow, they'll look at the latest market price for the house, and they're like, "Oh my God, I got it for $20,000. Now it's over 1.3. My kid's capitalizing on this house somehow. I better tap on his shoulder to see what's going on with my equity." Right? Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. And so you met the owner of that place, and then she said, "Gee, you sure show up here a lot. Why don't you buy
Yeah.
it?" And
Yeah.
so, is that owner financing or like,
It's a little bit of both. I cashed out. During that time, 2000. That's when the bubble started bursting. So I already had in my mind to go. I need to get out of this
out of tech?
out of tech somehow, and we were getting decimated, right? All my colleagues were getting decimated, and so I wanted to get something more. I don't know. I wanted a demographic demand services, and so let's go after the baby boomers, and that's what gravitated me into that space. And yeah, and every time I'd show up at the community, I would always ask the owner, so okay, what else can I do, what else can I do? I guess she found it really infectious, and so said, hey, you know what if I take you under my wings, and then when we came up with the price, I got an SBA loan, I got a little bit of, silent note on the side, but, we made it work. And it was pretty tough in the beginning, because I took a really bad community that had a really bad reputation, and it took a while to get it going. But one of the ways to flip that around is I started blending technology as part of our assisted living care, and that's how I got into this new connected home living.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because, I mean, like the care part is the really expensive part, right? So I'm sure that you, as an operator of a, assisted living community, that you really want to make sure that you're keeping your care costs down while still providing the best care. So, what point did you start integrating sort of more like modern technology? You already like 2005, the technology is like Stone Age compared to where it is now, right? But like,
Yeah.
at what point did you start integrating more technology into the care you provided?
Well, I did it really for selfish reasons, right? So typically, when a resident moves into our building, it's not because they're volunteering. Hey, I want to move into assisted living. It's never that. It's typically they've broken a hip. They had a triple bypass. Now unable to drive because they ran over somebody. It's usually some kind of catastrophic event. The reason why they're moving in. And so when they move in, we inherit those dispositions, right? So let's say they came in because of they let their diabetes exacerbate, or their congestive heart failure, or now they're limping in because now they've got a broken hip. Well, those issues don't go away when they move in. They become part of our service. So, but with assisted living communities or other senior communities, we're non-clinical. We're not mandated to hire nurses or doctors. If we are, then we're crossing the line in becoming what they call a nursing home or skilled nursing communities. But we're not that. But however, we inherit these people with chronic conditions. So, and when you have a chronic ailment like, let's say, congestive heart failure, well, we better know how to identify those red flags. Like, for instance, with CHF, we got to keep an eye on their swollen legs and their breathing and their dizziness. Versus somebody who has diabetes, we obviously need to know about their glucose reading, and also keep an eye on their wounds on their toes. Anyway, there's a heap ton of chronic ailments, and how do you keep track of that per resident? And so, and then I'm in addition to that, I'm stuck with caregivers who are non-clinical, right? And so technology had to play a part. And so the system that we started using allowed us to capture vitals, but not just capture vitals. Anybody can do that, right? It's knowing what the normal ranges are, right? But also knowing when things are trending the wrong or right way. So technology allowed us to do that. But also technology would tell us, no, hey, for congestive heart failure, ask these questions. Versus somebody who has pneumonia, ask these other set of questions. But we would record that, and then the technology would let us know, you know what? Things are looking good. Or sometimes it'll just let us know, it's like, you know what? Oh boy, they're starting to be more dizzy here. And it's now 3 days in a row of dizziness. Better call the doctor, right? So the system will let us know when it's time to call the doc, right? And then when we show up at the doctor's office, we would tell them, hey doc, these set of vitals that I've captured for the past 6 months, I don't know what the heck they mean, but maybe you would know what they mean. And then when they would look at it, I was like, holy smokes, this is fantastic, Neil, because I just spoke with Mrs. Smith and she's lying her teeth off, right? She said she's doing fantastic. But when I looked at the readings, no, it's not doing so good. Looks like my prescription for her insulin isn't working. Because look at her glucose reading. They're like a Richter scale. And look at this other client of mine. She said her congestive heart failure is doing good, but look, she's got a swollen leg. Her blood pressure's not so good, but also her rapid weight gain is turning the wrong way. So the data that we would share with the clinicians allowed us to intercept those issues super early on. But for me, the best part about it too is that they would tell us, now that you share this data, Neil, no, when they go back to your community, do the following: elevate their legs, hydrate some more, blah, 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 blah. Where before, we were just guessing what to do, right? Because we're non clinical. But now the interaction that we would have with the clinical team allowed us to be more effective with our care, right? So that's one form of technology. The other technology that we found very useful is this. We deployed this fall detection radar system because in my community I've got pull cords in every wall of the building, right? And these pull cords you yank if you've fallen or you need help. Well, the problem with the pull cords is that you're hoping the resident will fall next to the pull cord, right? And they never do, right? And I've got them all over the walls, right? It's always too far away, or maybe perhaps they put a drawer right in front of it or something, right? And then so I knew pull cords weren't effective with regards to falls. But then I said, okay, well, my residents are moving in with these little pendants around their neck, so I got nothing to worry about, right? But I was mistaken. These little life alert buttons, they number one, they don't like to wear it when they go to bed or when they take a shower, right? And it even tells you, don't wet this device, you're gonna break it, right? And so they don't like to wear it when they go to bed or take a shower. Well, guess where 85% of the falls happen? In the bedroom, in the shower, right? But also too, it doesn't do a good job identifying slow moving falls, right? So when a senior slides off a bed or a recliner or a sofa, go try it out. Go put one of these things on and just slide off the bed to see if it picks it up. It never does, right? And so the client could be on the ground for hours, and that's what got me in trouble as an owner, because the only time we would know when they've fallen is when they don't show up for breakfast or lunch or dinner, right? That seat is empty. They should be sitting there an hour ago. And then that's when we get the clue to go knocking on their door. And sure enough, there they are. Sometimes they're unconscious. Sometimes they're injured. Well, guess who gets in trouble, right? We get in trouble, right? Even though we told them we're not a one-on-one care provider, because when they're in their rooms, we typically don't hang out in their room unless they call us. So we let them by themselves, right? That's their patient rights. But that's what's got us community owners in trouble when they've fallen and we don't respond immediately. right? So, and then forget about cameras. I tried using cameras. In fact, I said, "Hey, I'm going to stick cameras, in the bedroom and the bathroom." And guess what the family member said?
I'm guessing they
No
didn't like that
way.
idea too much.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. What, you're gonna watch my mom do number two? No, I don't think so.
Right.
Right.
I don't think so.
So that's why we went with this. I did all of my pull cords, and this is placed either on the wall or up on the ceiling. But when it's turned on, it sends out this um this 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 non-intrusive 4D radar signal. So it sends it out, and it scans the whole room, and when it comes back to us, we see the silhouette of the individual, right? We see their head, we see the shoulders, we see them sitting on the chair, we see them laying on the bed. But with this, what it does, when it sees the person on the ground, it'll say, "Oh, I see somebody on the ground." So there's a little blue light that starts to blink saying, "Hey, I see somebody on the ground. I'm going to look at that person for about a minute and a half. If they don't get up, I'm going to start to beep, 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 beep. And if they still don't get up for about 4 minutes, because we want to make sure they're not doing sit-ups or, tying their shoes or something like that. So, but if they still don't get up, then it sends an alarm to my front desk, and within seconds, we're all over that, right? And I can't begin to tell you how many lives we save, because if you think about it, if you have a stroke or a heart attack, can you wait 30 minutes? Can you wait an hour? Right? You're hearing some of these horror stories where a senior's on the ground for hours, right? And who was that actor that just died? Gene Hackman. Gene
Right.
Hackman, right? They found his body 2 weeks later, and he had one of those life alert buttons, right? And so, why didn't he press it? I know he's got dementia.
You need
I know
dementia.
that,
Yeah.
yeah. But the thing, he fell though. He fell on the ground. The system should have picked it up, but they didn't pick it up, right? This would have picked it up within minutes, right? So anyway, so that's why we don't like using pendants. And now we got these smartwatches now that have the same thing. It doesn't work either, right? It only likes it when you fall like a tree, but most seniors don't do that way. But then we started adding more technologies such as um more passive sensors. So when they go about their day, let's say they're going through their dining room, their kitchen, their bedroom and hallway, these sensors track their patterns and behavior in a non-intrusive way, and it creates a routine of their day at their home. And what it does is it compares it from day to day. So this way, when there's any kind of change of routine, it sends it as a notice. So, for instance, like right now, we use these sensors to identify wandering in the middle of the night, right? People eloping. So, if that door is open, let's say at 2 a.m. in the morning, and this happened actually in real life. We had one client in North Carolina. She was living by herself. The door was wide open at 2 a.m. All right. And she's normally asleep between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. But for some reason, she was moving around and the door is wide open. And all of a sudden, there's no more motion inside the house. Right. That's an instant alert. So it triggered an alert. We tried calling the patient. They didn't answer. So we contacted their family member. And luckily, they lived 10 minutes away. And then when they showed up, there she was. She was on her robe, waiting for that bus to show up because she thought it was time for church, right? So yeah, so it's stuff like that that we started blending with our live care, and it worked fantastic in our assisted living. But the reason why we grew so fast is because the home care side wanted this service even more, because as you know, here in the Bay Area, the cost for a caregiver isn't cheap, right? It's anywhere from the low end is right around $35 an hour if you hire a professional who's insured, to as high as $50 an hour. Right. So let's say you got somebody for $40 an hour, like the middle ground. So for 5 hours of care, right, just only for 5 hours, you have to pay $200 a day, right? Multiply that by 30 days, that's a lot of money for only 5 hours of care. The problem isn't when the caregiver is there. The problem is when the caregiver clocks out. Now grandma or grandpa's by themselves, right? So those worries about falling, wandering, not taking that important medication, them being lonely, right? Them leaving the stove on and leaving the doors unlocked. Those are the things that worry the adult children the most. And that's exactly what connected home living was built to do, right? We're bridging that gap in care. So this way, in between the caregiver or family visit, we're keeping an eye in a non-intrusive way of the aging loved one. So instead of paying $40 an hour, right now the high end of our services is about $16 a day, right? And
24
so,
hours.
24 hours, right? So that's why many home care agencies are now bundling our connected home living services. So this way, if the client's budget, let's say, is capped at, let's say, $4,000 a month, they can bundle in our connected home living services. So this way, even though they're only getting, let's say, 5 hours of care every other day, but once the good is, once that caregiver leaves, we're still keeping an eye on the loved one, right? Keeping an eye on their falls, keeping an eye on their wandering. But what we did with connected home living is that we added a virtual caregiver. It's a live person. And this person is going to be the same thing as a caregiver. It's the same person all the time, but they're going to be glued to that client, right? They're going to get to know them really well. So I'll give you an example. So we have a lot of clients who tend to hire us to check in with their loved one. Let's say right around 6:30 at night, right before they go to bed. So I'll pretend I'm the caregiver and you're and you, Seb, are the loved one. It's like, hi Seb, it's me, your remote care coordinator, Neil. How was your grandkid visit today? Right? Because that's first thing and foremost, we're going to be a companion to you, Seb, because we know that you're typically alone, you're not talking to anybody, and believe it or not, our clients love that interaction. And by the way, when we talk to them, it's usually not over the phone, it's usually through live video calling, right? And so when we're video calling them, so we're gonna have this cool conversation, and then and see how the day was, right? And then but before we hang up, we're gonna go through the checklist that your loved one had asked us to check in. Okay, we'll say, okay, Seb, thanks for sharing your fantastic day today. But before we go to bed, let's go through our checklist. Okay, did you turn off the stove? Because you left it on 3 times already. So I'll stay here on the video call until I make sure that the stove is turned off. So we'll wait, right? And then, okay, all right, Seb, I know you got 3 dogs and I can hear them barking. So let's make sure that all the dogs are inside the house because I don't want you getting up in the middle of the night and falling on the way to the living room like last time. Okay, so I'll stay here on the line until the dogs are inside. And while you're at it, let's make sure the doors are locked. Click, click, click. Right. And so those are the kind of things that we do. But sometimes the family members or caregivers will give us a task. They'll tell us, let's say, okay, Seb's notorious for not taking this last antibiotic. So I want you to make sure you watch him swallow his pill. And that's what we do, right? We'll stay on the video call and that pill's ready, right? Or maybe, Seb, you need a ride to your doctor's appointment tomorrow. We'll arrange that, right? So again, we're kind of like a caregiver, but we're not there physically. We're there virtually, and this way you don't have to pay the same hefty cost that you would with a physical person. Does that make sense a
Yeah,
little bit?
that makes a lot of sense. Couple questions. So, like you said, video call. So, what does that look like? Is there like an iPhone or like how do they do the video calls?
Excellent. Yeah. So we give the clients a choice. But first and foremost, we don't shove video calling down their throats, right? Because some seniors out there is like, I can't even use a TV remote, let alone a smartphone or video calling. So we get to know them first. If we know they're non-tech savvy, we'll start off with a phone call, and then we'll ease them into the video calling by installing our app onto their smartphone or tablet. All right. A lot of times we would install it on the tablet so that way it does nothing but telehealth by connected home living. So if that tablet rings, they know it's not a spam call. It's an actual buddy of theirs from connected home living. And it'll ring just like a regular telephone. You press that little green button to accept and boop, up pops a remote care coordinator. Right. And so, so we'll have a call with them and they can call us anytime you want. There's a little phone button on the bottom right corner of the app, on the screen, I mean. So when they click on that, they have an option of calling us through video, phone call, or text. It's amazing how many seniors now they like texting versus video calling, you know? And so we customize it based on the preference of the client.
Yeah, well, it sure takes a lot less time to text message somebody than to call them. So, is this like is this an app that you developed, or is it like an off the shelf thing? Or tell me
Yeah.
about that app.
Yeah, it's our own app, and so it's actually a telehealth app, and video calling is just one way of one reason why we use it, right? Because when we video call, we don't actually just use the plain old video calling like FaceTime. We actually use a HIPAA compliant version of Zoom. And the reason why we use this HIPAA compliant Zoom because we also have clinicians who love using our platform. Because when they used our platform to, let's say, talk to a patient, number one, it's secured. Number two, they actually get compensated as if the client is physically in their clinic. So with telehealth today, physicians or other clinicians are now able to get compensated as if they're in live in person, right? But you can't just do that through FaceTime or Google Meet. It has to be number one a HIPAA compliant platform like what we utilize. So that's one. And this app is also we have customized what we call a clinical pathway for each client. So if we know the client has a history of congestive heart failure or atrial fibrillation or diabetes or cancer or whatever it may be, we have tailored this telehealth to ask specific questions about their chronic ailment because so this way based on their answers we're going to know when things are going bad or good, right? But also we use these Bluetooth medical devices like this one. We use a Bluetooth pulse oximeter like this one, right? So when they stick their finger in there, it's not just going to measure their vitals, but it's also going to record it and trend it. But we have other medical devices like a blood pressure monitor, a weight scale, a glucometer. We even have an EKG, ECG, stethoscope. It all depends on the client's situation. We would equip them with the right telehealth. In fact, we've been doing this for so long that folks like El Camino Hospital is one of our biggest clients. So many of their patients who leave the hospital, they actually go home with our telehealth equipment. So this way we can prevent them from going back. And in fact, they keep renewing our contract because we've taken their what they call 30-day readmission rates because Medicare keeps track of their 30-day readmissions, which means that if a patient gets discharged and if they come back within 30 days, Medicare docks them. They penalize them. And so all hospitals, all skilled and communities, home health agencies, they're all being tracked with these 30-day readmissions. So with El Camino Hospital, if they don't use us, their average readmission rates are between 17 to 24%, which just means 1 out of 4 patients come back to the hospital, right? But under our care, if they use our services, it's between 0.9 to less than 5%,
Oh,
right?
wow,
Yeah. So
that's a big
it's pretty
difference.
low. A big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, big difference. So that's why hospitals use our services, home health and hospice, skilled nursing communities are also using it. And then and the reason why I've been so busy too, Seb, the state of Colorado has decided to pay for our services for all their Medicaid eligible recipients because right now they're getting hammered by Medicaid recipients using the ER for non-emergent use, right? And every time these Medicaid folks show up, let's say either from a cold, a broken arm, or a hangnail, they write a check. Doesn't matter. Medicaid just writes a check, and they feel 75% of their hospital visits are unavoidable. And so they have approved our services based on our history of helping out folks like El Camino. And they said, okay, for all Medicaid eligible folks from Medicare, for Medicaid folks from Colorado, they get our services at no cost to the recipient.
That's pretty amazing. So you mentioned healthcare companies. Do you actually need to work with a healthcare company, or can I only work with you direct? A home care company, not healthcare, a home care company. can they work with you directly? Like, they some gonna like a family member go to your website and just order the whole package and you send it to them like in a box and they just like follow the directions, put it up around their house and click the on button and all of a sudden they're in business? Or how does that work if you want to do it independently of any home care company?
Good question. Yeah. So right now we opted not to be a direct to consumer because we don't want to compete against our partners. So here in the Bay Area, we have quite a bit of home care agencies, and if we decide to accept customers directly, they're gonna be mad. So if anybody inquires for our services, they said, okay, go call up one of our partners who can provide that services. So some of these home care agents, actually all of the home care agencies who use our services, again, they tend to bundle it with their in-person care, but if they're not ready for any kind of in-person care, they can just deploy just the technology piece alone, right? And
Okay,
which
so
is common.
they act as your sales channel right now. So what if I live in small town nowhere, right? Like there's no like I don't maybe there's a home care, but how
Yeah.
like do you have partners like everywhere, or are you only in certain markets?
No, we're currently so far in 33 states right now. But we're about to be in all 50 states. We're starting to roll out in Canada, and so yeah, so that's why we partnered with national home care franchises, and so so wherever they are, and the good news, wherever they are, we can service them, and also since our company is virtual, right? We if they're, let's say, in what's a rural part of California? Like, let's say
Uh,
Wairika, maybe somewhere out there. Or
yeah.
we can drop ship. Our partner can drop ship it there. Once it shows up at the front door, that remote care coordinator for my company would call them. It's like, okay, your package has arrived. Let's go unbox it, and we'll walk them through the whole installation process. So yeah,
That's
so
pretty simple
from
though, installation, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's plug and
yeah,
play mostly. Is that
yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah, like this one right here, this fall detection, right? So we get a live Zoom call with the installer, and sometimes it's the elderly themselves because if you place to put it on the wall, it has to be exactly 5 feet, and you don't need a ladder for that. And on the back of this device is a command strip, the two-way command strip. So you just peel the stickers, you place it on the wall, you plug it in for power, and then we'll deal with the internet connectivity. So we'll on our end we know how to connect it to their Wi-Fi. They do have to have Wi-Fi though, all right?
all
So,
right.
but yeah,
Well, that sounds pretty amazing. So by using this, I mean, yeah, you have to be working with a home care company still, but you find that they reduce the number of hours because they don't need someone like babysitting the caree or what
yeah. I'll
the
give an example. So we got one client in Livermore. They were paying 24-hour care, right? And they were paying twenty $22,000 a month. Can you imagine that? And that's the
I
low
cannot
end.
imagine that.
22,000. And so guess what? It's draining their account.
Yeah.
And so finally said, you know what? Uh, they decided to, we're just going to do 12-hour care. And besides the caregiver sleeps when the resident sleeps anyway, so why pay that wage? And yeah, so they reduced it down to 12 hours. And when the caregiver clocks out, right? And the client's nice, rested in bed, the system's keeping an eye on them. In fact, that particular client in Livermore, she slid off the bed, she couldn't get up, and then within minutes, we contacted the family member who lived about 5 minutes away, and boop, there she was, helped them up. All right.
All right. Well, this is tremendously exciting technology, and I can really see that down the road, this is going to become probably a part of. I mean, I'm not sure when, but in a few years, I would think that everybody would have this. It just seems like, right? Because it's just like a no-brainer,
Yeah,
right? I mean,
I
like
know
it
in your
doesn't.
in your in your line of work, Seb. I know we're seeing a lot of seniors who are downsizing into smaller homes, smaller condominiums, smaller townhouses, right? Because they don't want to deal with the upkeep anymore, and they don't want to deal with the big home because all their kids have moved out. And so yeah, if they're still living, if say whether they're moving into a condo or an apartment or even in an independent living community, I would deploy this, at least this, the fall detection, right? Because we know they're usually moving into the smaller domiciles because they're probably falling a lot. right? So at least this way, when they move into their new place, you deploy this. Now you've got that peace of mind that even though they're by themselves, right, someone's keeping an eye on them because 79% of seniors don't want to move into an assisted living like mine. I own one and I don't want to live into one, right? And I want to stay in my own home. In fact, I want to die in my home, right? And but how do you do that? And the way, especially when the cost of care is so expensive.
Yeah, and not go
Uh,
bankrupt at the same time,
yeah.
right? That's
So
that's a
technology has
challenge,
to play
right?
a part. Yeah.
So let you stay in your home longer and more safely. Well, Neil, thank you so much for joining me here. This is very interesting. I know a lot of people who are watching this are going to want to get a hold of you. What's the best way they can? I mean, probably they don't get a hold of you personally. I guess they would
No, no,
get.
no, no. Please, please. I'm always speaking, as you know. I'm at that speaking event. So yeah, just log into our website. It's called connectedhomeliving.com, connectedhomeliving.com. And my phone number, I'll give you my mobile phone, which is my office phone, which is area code 408-634-5111. Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Neil, this is fantastic. Thank you so very much, and I will catch you on the flip side.